waiting on a dime.
Oh my goodness.
The February 11th, 2025 regular Planning Commission meeting is called to order. The time is 6:01 p.m. Before we begin, commissioners, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you are participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless you are speaking. Also, when speaking, state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Will the city planner please call the roll?
Thank you, Commissioner Seals. Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Seals?
Here.
Commissioner Langyo?
Here.
Commissioner DeYoung?
Here.
And Commissioner Stafford?
Here.
And Commissioner Seals, you do have a quorum with Commissioners Brown, Seals, Langyo, and DeYoung and Stafford present in the chambers.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Langell, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item of business is approval of the agenda. Before changes are discussed, are there conflicts of interest to declare? Hearing no changes to the, If the commission would like to discuss anything under the consent agenda, such as the minutes, they need to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under new business at this time. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing no changes to the agenda will stand as presented unless objection is raised. Next on the agenda are reports. Do we have a report from City Planner Wellman?
Oh boy.
Official.
She's very official.
Hello, this is Planner Wellman. And yes, tonight I just wanted to give a little brief update, but first, most importantly, I wanted to introduce everybody to our new planning clerk, Julia Barnett, and I want to give you just a really warm welcome. I've really just enjoyed today already, and welcome to the commission. So just a couple brief updates. So since we last met, we had our meeting on the 28th, our regular meeting, and then the 29th, we had our training meeting. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the mayor asked all of the directors to watch that training that you went through. So they get to experience it as well. And I provided the materials for them so that they could follow along. I understand, based on last night's city council meeting, that we are ready to move forward with the next step of our Title 16 rewrite. And so we're going to go back to our joint meetings, and that's what we did at the beginning. And so our deputy city clerk, Sarah Stanifer, reached out to you to see if you were available, and it looks like that meeting is going to be March 3rd at 6 p.m. I'm very excited about that. I did speak with the city attorney. We still are going to be having the next trainings that are going to be coming up, and that was to actually do the entire parliamentary procedure, but then also have some case studies that we'll be running through that go with your quasi-judicial role. And I think we're also going to be looking at more detail of the Planning Commission roles and what that looks like, because we just touched on it a little bit, but not as much as we needed to. We have some people, the city clerk is out right now, so we can't schedule that meeting yet, but it's looking like the beginning of March is what the attorney has said, sometime in that time frame. And we have on our February 25th meeting, we have 2 conditional use permits that you should have received in the mail, the information about those. There may be a typo on one of those. I need to double check on the conditional use permit for conditional use permit 25-02. That should be a 20,000 square foot facility, not a 40,000 square foot. I apologize for that. With additional help, we're gonna have some additional eyes on things now. So I've seen it in other places that it is correct, and I do apologize for that, being incorrect. And, also last night at the city council meeting, we had Dow who gave their presentation, the same one that you saw at your commission meeting. So while I had you here, I know we had a short meeting, but I thought, well, this will give me a little time to show you something we do in the planning office. And this is something that Crystal got made available within the last year, and it's been a really wonderful tool that we use, and it's for the public. This is our zoning maps. Previously, this was not available online, and I just wanted to show you what is available to all of our constituents as well as you. It's a wonderful tool for the community, and there's two ways to get to it. So the first way is you go to the City of Wasilla website, and you go to services. Whoops, we're just gonna hover over services, and you go to our planning department. And you zip down here to our zoning districts map. And then it's going to make sure that you know that you're leaving the city website and going to our zoning maps. So this is an overview of our city here. And I'm going to use, I know I have a few addresses that I kind of tuck away in my mind that I can use as sample ones. So up here in the right-hand corner, I hope you can see this here, but up here in the right-hand corner of the screen is a magnifying glass. We're going to click on that, and that's where you're going to enter the address. So we're going to enter 777 North Cruzy. And just to let you know, this address system on our zoning maps is Google-based. And this is going to become important here in a minute because I'm going to be showing you something that isn't Google-based. It's actually based on our GIS system, which is over at the Borough. But anyway, 777 North Cruzy. So it zooms us in, and it takes us right to where that is. And then we are going to click the little circle here. And as you can see, it has one of three or one of four, and this is the zoning right here. It's commercial, and I'll show you a different one here in a second, but we'll go ahead and click view, because what this is the zoning info. This is one of my favorite parts about this, is because right here, we're gonna open this file. This is our use chart. So I know you looked really closely at the use chart as we've been rewriting Title 16, but we now have this available. So in the commercial district, under this zone, these are the type of uses that you can have and the type of permit needed to obtain that use. So you'll notice that yes, you can have a hotel, but maybe you might need to have a use permit to have a cemetery, or to have multifamily, or to have a public facility. And a use permit is when we notify the neighbors. We mail out that 1,200-foot radius, and then if you get some messages back that maybe we need to have a bigger discussion, then it's elevated up to the Planning Commission at that point. Then we have our conditional use permits, and they have all of the ones here. And then excluded, the ones that are strictly excluded in this area. There's some additional things down below in which if you're online, you can actually click on this and it will take you. It's a link to the code that talks to, so for example, one of them has to do with poultry. Then you click on it and it will take you right over to poultry on our code. So I want to go back here. So we're just going to pretend like we're just looking at this again for the first time. So this is, as you can see here, this is the overview. Each one of these colors is a different zone. So this kind of pinky salmon color is our commercial, yellow is our residential. We have some split zones in here, which is, boy, that's a big one, split zones. We'll have a conversation about that another time, but it's very interesting. We have our the public, and then the PUDs, that's a planned unit development. The R2, which this one happens to be in the R2, they made that zone here. And then we have, what am I missing here? Multifamily and industrial. We have 2 industrial areas in the city, or 3 actually. I think there's a third one that's, right down here by Main Street. So this is one way to get to things. And then, so each one of these is, you click on it, you get a different use chart, and then you can, and if you don't even know an address, you can go right to if you know the general area, you can just click, oh, here's rural residential, that's who I was forgetting. You can click the general area, and then just click view on the zoning info. And then it just brings it right up. So this is a nice tool we found some of our real estate professionals have really enjoyed this, or just members of the community, if they don't know, can I have poultry in this area? And they can come and look, well, yes, I can have poultry. Oops, I just, these are some of the requirements. All right, so there's another way that you can get to this, and I was so excited the day that I found this out, because it's now a layer on the Matsu Borough's website. So we use the Matsu Borough. And over here, Julie and I were setting up a little planning folder, so we'll have this available for sites that we frequent. We use the borough's website a lot. And we use this parcel viewer, and we use the My Property lookup. One is the parcel viewer will take you just to the maps. The My Property is more of the details of what each property is, but you can get to either one of them within the actual website. So if you're in Parcel Viewer and you need to know more about it, it will take you to the property information. But we're going to go this time to Parcel Viewer. All right, and we're going to go, I want to search for parcels by address. This is where the borough is going to use their own ArcGIS based addressing system, and they may call it something a teeny bit different. But one of the most important things is that they require the direction of the street. So if on that last example we used is Cruzy, I would need to know that it's North Cruzy, or else it brings up an error. But good news, they gave us a little workaround. You can use the %. So if you're not sure what it is, you can put 777 space % space Cruzy Street, and it will bring that up for you. Because for the longest time, I couldn't remember. And then one day I noticed over on the property side that, oh yay, we can use a wildcard that it'll bring it up. So we'll go ahead and I happen to know that it's North Cruzy Street. And it's going to zip us right in to that location. Oh, a couple things real quick. I should have probably done this part first. Down here on the bottom left-hand corner are the layers. And I scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there's a lot that you can do in here. But we just had the 2024 imagery come online, and that was a happy day. Probably for you, Commissioner DeYoung, as well.
Yeah, I like that.
Because the last one was 2022, and so a lot has changed. So here we are, we can click here. There we go. If we needed to, this is kind of this little white box here is just a little small version of what we could see over in the property viewer in My Property. But if we needed to, we could go ahead and click View in My Property. It's going to bring up a separate tab, and it really brings up all the information you would need to see about this property. But if you needed to get back, you just click Interactive Web Map. It takes you to a fresh page, though, where you have to select I'll show you what it looks like. So we don't get to see the pretty overview. So we'll just go back here. There we go. Because the main thing I wanted to show you here is the day that I was doing exactly this, and I noticed at the very bottom here, View Land Use Regulations. And I thought, what in the world? So one of the things we've been really happy about is being able to really develop a good working relationship with the borough. And so for them to host this layer for us on their GIS system is great. We already have an MOU, it might be an MOA, a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement with the borough for the GIS portion, but they've really made all of their, they make all of these services available. So for example, when I do that 1200 radius, when I send out to all the neighbors and everything, they have a tool in here that I use to go in and select the area. We'll show you that a different time. But they made this available with so many other things, and it's rather than gatekeeping something, they made it available for everybody. So I just agreed to everything here. I think this is something we need to add to ours, in fact, kind of a disclaimer, but. So it's going to take us here. So this looks very similar to the one that we just did, but we're going to go ahead and click. Now what's really interesting about this one, I didn't actually get the right one. I think I'm clicked on the high school right now. But if you notice right up here on top, it says 1 of 6. So that is this here. So this first one just has information from the My Property page, but this next one has to do with some right-of-way information, and we can go and look at that. But this has to do with the Mat-Su Borough boundary, and under it, it has information about who the mayor is, how to get to the Mat-Su Borough website, information about new construction, general use zoning, but that's not us. Next we have the city boundary for Wasilla, and it just highlighted it and showed it with the city of Wasilla, Mayor Glenda Ledford, and then some information about the various cities on how to get to the websites. And then finally, oh, here's the assembly, same type of thing. It tells you who your assembly member is. It tells you how to get to and who your school board member is. It's very useful. The acreage, the population. That might be a typo though. I think it says Maxwell Sumner. It's Maxwell, right? I think it's Maxwell, yeah. Okay, so, but then here we are. So now you as a real estate person or whomever can come here and then you just do zoning information and then it brings up our little district use chart for commercial again. Anyway, so that's my little lesson for tonight. Anybody have any questions?
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you to Crystal truly for this. This is, and it was initially by, oh, give me a second and I'll think of his name, Steve Culligan was the one who's been really working on getting our zoning maps online. And so a big thanks to him. And in fact, right now he's working on redoing our printed versions of our maps that we're making available to some of our real estate friends as well. So, and everybody actually. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and close and we'll shut this down. We don't wanna have this up.
Just a quick question.
Yeah,
How long
absolutely.
is it going to take to update these sites, let's say once Title 16?
Oh, very easy. So, well, I shouldn't say that because there are some things in the background because we have to go through and make sure that all of, like on that use chart, that it has to be 100% correct because somebody could base something. And that's why that little flash that I was talking about, I think it would be good to have a disclaimer just in case there was something. Yes, we would like to have this as accurate as possible, but just in case there's an issue, you know, it's a little bit of a disclaimer, like please check with the planning office just to double check. But as far as how fast, want to make it as fast as possible, but as accurate as possible.
Right.
And with many sets of eyes on it. But we have the template in place, so that part of it, they can get it updated very quickly. They will do it as quickly as we want to. Same thing as earlier this year, the commission approved change in zoning where we did the industrial And so we just let Steve Culligan know, and he went in behind the scenes, he updated it. It was very quickly that they were able to get it changed, so.
The main reason I questioned it is because this information, fantastic, I'm glad it's out there. But the time 16 is approved, and until it hits this, a developer,
It'd be nice to do it at the same time, I think, and I mean, because we may have a little bit of time, but it sounds like things are moving very quickly as far as with you meeting, and so I don't know that, yeah, it would be nice to get it done ahead of time so that when we go live, when that ordinance hits, that's an excellent, so thank you for even asking that they could go live at the same time. Because we'll have the introduction of the ordinance, and then we'll have the actual public hearing on the ordinance. And that at that time, it would be lovely if it was approved. So we'll see. We'll see if we can do that. Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We don't have an attorney present for tonight's meeting, so we'll move to public participation. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing. We do not have any items scheduled for public hearing tonight, so we move on to persons to be heard. We are now at persons to be heard, a time for members of the public to share their views with the Planning Commission. This is not a question and answer period or time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the commission or administration. Do we have anyone wishing to step forward this evening? With no one wishing to speak, the next item of business is the consent agenda. Would the city planner please read the items for approval under the consent agenda into the record?
Thank you, Commissioner Seals. Tonight, under the consent agenda, we have the minutes of the preceding meetings, which include the regular meeting minutes of January 28th, 2025, and the special meeting minutes, January 29th, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Commissioner Stafford, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Do I have a second?
Lanchill second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. We are now at new business, and with no items under consideration, we move to communications. We are now at communications. Are there any comments on the communications items as presented?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Brown.
Go ahead.
To the planner, I know you explained this before, on the code violations, is there a plan that someday we know what the final disposition is?
Yes, because it became, when we started talking about this, we're seeing where the deficits are. And so what ended up happening is myself and our code compliance officer, as well as the business licensing person, tax auditor, we heavily utilize the code enforcement person. And we noticed a couple of situations that are going to require a little bit of manipulation. So we spoke with the city attorney, and I had some brief conversations with the police chief as well. And so yes, this will be coming. We have a little bit of an issue because the code compliance officer utilizes some of the information from the WPD. So he is utilizing their website or their software as well. And so sometimes that is combined. And closing a part of this we're working on it. That is I wanted to make sure you understand, not just giving you talk of why.
No, I know it's difficult.
And one of the things we noticed in the code is we had some different wordings, like code compliance officer might use this word to describe what his book is called. And we, in our code, has it labeled as something else. So we spoke with the attorney. In fact, when this comes out, when the new rewrite comes out, we're gonna take a look and see if any changes need to be made, because we wanna make sure that what he's doing is exactly what we need to be doing, and everything jives.
And I was asking because, does it come to him, does it come to the PD, or does it come to you? Especially the ones that are adjudicated in this Superior Court.
No, and so this is something that I haven't had to delve into yet, and so I say no only because I don't know. I don't know. I haven't gone through that process yet. None of the situations that we've had have gone that far, but I have seen some other ones in which they're closed because what was going on at that time was enough to be closed. Like they cured whatever the violation was, and we didn't need to escalate it anymore after that. But I know it's very vague what you're receiving now, and I don't care for that either.
And if it goes to a hearing officer, which works its way through the clerk's office, will the clerk be reporting back to you once that hearing officer comes to a decision?
So that might actually be that would be a little bit of a different situation, because, and that one, I need to find out some more information about that, because if it's escalated and it goes to a hearing officer, it's not necessarily going through Charlie or going through the code compliance officer.
Goes to the clerk's office.
Yeah.
Right, and so, but I don't know that we have a mechanism for that in here, so thank you. You haven't seen anything in which something has got, we haven't had one yet, so now we need to add one.
But do we know if we had one?
Yeah, yes, I would definitely know that part, yes. Because I do remember some of the ones from previously, and from being in the clerk's office, so.
Yeah. Even though I see here a land use, so if the person corrected it and we drop the charges, still we should have some kind of clue here.
Right. And so that's some of the dialogue we've been having with him, because what constitutes a violation? And he said, well, this is a violation whenever I go out. And I said, well, in our code, a violation means one thing. If you say violation, then a clock starts ticking, and there's lots of things that can happen at that point. Are you giving him a warning? Is a warning a violation, or is it a?
Yeah.
So that's what we need to clear up, that we may need to have a bigger conversation that you get to decide at that point, that the city council gets to decide at that point of what
And that's what I'm concerned about. If the code compliant officer taking it on his own to charge this person with a violation and this person with a warning, and I don't want to take that completely away from him, but I need to know how he comes to those decisions, and how do we find out
Absolutely.
What the outcome was.
I'm very happy that our next meetings are going to be joint ones, because I think that we're going to be really getting very detailed at this point, and to have everybody together is going to be very beneficial versus having two different discussions at that point.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, and Chair Seals, once we get Charlie some help and we get these small differences tied down, I think this will come together and be very easy for the commission and the clerk's office and the planning department to all be on the same page. So.
And I have one little update. I don't know if you took a look at the permits, but I have never been so busy. I mean, with everything.
I'm sorry, can you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I don't know if you took a look at we have just been so busy with the permits and licenses over the last 2 weeks. So if you see the number, we've had over 30, and it has a list of them, and I've never seen anything like this. So one thing in the future that I'm hoping to do is to start giving you some numbers and start being able to compare. And I remember Commissioner Brown had asked, how does this compare to last year? And I said, well, we're gonna be working on that. Those are the numbers that I'd like to start being able to present to you, giving you some graphs, giving you some nice things that you can actually quantify and be able to see where we are comparatively speaking. But I can say firsthand, I have never been as busy as I have these last 2 weeks, combined with everything else that we have going on in the planning world. So we have some
That
happy
help.
people. Yes, we have some happy people that now have their permits, but I think everybody woke up on the day after Christmas and said, let's go build, because we have people building in, here in Wasilla. They're building houses in the middle of winter. It's been impressive.
Commissioner Brown again, and maybe during the training in March, again, just we have some new members here, Ills explaining again the mechanism, because most of these were administratively approved and stuff, and just kind of maybe a quick lesson on what rises to the commissioner and what things you are taking care of and we never hear about.
Absolutely, because if you were just to look at, for example, I'm on the first one of our permits page. So if you were to look at those, the first one, well, actually, we'll go to the, let me find one that I know exactly what it is here. So, under the administrative approval permits, the second from the bottom at the 490 South Connect Goose Bay Road, I happen to know that that was a more detailed permit in which we had several pre-application meetings. I brought in Public Works, Business Licensing, and myself. We're the approvers on these permits, in which we had a lot of details that we had to go over. The name of the business is Prepper Ben's, and he is going to be opening a freeze-dried commercial food kitchen there. And so now, as Commissioner Brown is saying, that would be something that most likely would be going before the commission. That is not something that we internally will have to be determining. You will hear everything that I had to make the decision on based on all of the items that were presented in the application packet. Instead, it will be elevated to you. And I think that's going to be very beneficial.
Through the chair to the planner, sometime back I had asked about if we could get more information on the permits issued, and as far as, it says commercial, but what type of commercial? It's just like the home occupation. To me, that's a business, but what type of business? And the only reason is, as planners, at least when I look at this, I say, here's Wasilla, here's what used to be single-family homes, and now 10%, 20%, 50%. At what point does it all become commercial or home occupation? And does that change the land use that the Planning Commission should be considering? And if we can't get more information here, can we get quarterly reports or something
Yes.
from the planning department?
Absolutely. And I've seen some of the spreadsheets that the previous administration or the planning office, they were utilizing to keep track of various items. And even that had like a spreadsheet that showed those items. That's something that, yes, we can definitely provide. There was some limitations with our CitizenServe portal, or not portal, CitizenServe software, and that is the software that the public uses to turn in permit applications, in which there's some extra steps that we would need to do to create the reports, because those are subtypes. So commercial tenant, and to have a subtype under commercial tenant, there's not that option. I don't have a mechanism. We would have to create an entirely new field, and that field was never created from the very beginning. It's only administrative approval, commercial tenant. That's all we had. So this would be something separate that we would be keeping track of here in the planning office, and I already have a spreadsheet that is, in fact, I have it for all of them. I have the use permits, the administrative permits, and the conditional use permits, and it has various, permit type, permit number. Well, actually, I take that back. I don't think I put permit type, but it's easy enough to add. And so these are some things that, yes, we can definitely do, because I can see some excellent reasons of why you would want to be able to see that. And, yeah.
Commissioner Brown, through the chair again. And my concern is some of the same line. Is there a trigger mechanism in the planning office? All of a sudden on Cruzy Street, now we got 25
Yes.
home bed and breakfasts. Is there, because I surmise that you being singer, one person comes in today for a bed and breakfast and somebody come in 6 months for a bed and breakfast. Over a period of time, if you're not watching and there's no trigger, you could end up at 25 on the same street. And then I think we have a problem at that point, but maybe not. But some kind of trigger mechanism to say, in this area, once we get past 5 or 4 or whatever the number we come up with, there's a trigger that would automatically, your computer would ding or something. I don't know how to do that. But I'm concerned because nobody comes in the same day. So this day it's on Cruzy, tomorrow it's on Main Street, next day it's on Brown Street. But over a period of time, a street could become a cluster.
Absolutely, and I think it would be nice to, almost as a layer, that would be a really neat layer on the GIS that we were just looking at, to be able to see what type, like what subtype was there. Because what we're doing internally, and I like that example of the bed and breakfast, but what I usually look at it from, and it's from a public works side of things, we're looking at infrastructure. So that's why I bring, it's Robert Walden, our Deputy Director of Public Works, and sometimes it's Eric Shaw, the Director of Public Works, because they're both our engineers. And we bring them in because they're taking a look at, hey, what does the septic look like? Or what does the sewer or the water? I'm looking at it from a parking perspective. We have several areas in the city that have some of the commercial storefronts that are the strip malls. And there's no way to have that many restaurants going in there because the capacity, it just can't handle it. Or it may not be able to handle the type of parking. And that's why we've implemented these pre-applications on almost all of our permits. And when they don't do a pre-application, we end up, we're still going through the review process. It's a checklist with myself, the business licensing, and with Public Works, in which we're looking at those things. And I haven't had one that has been approved right away, because if it's the first time we're seeing it, well, they wouldn't know all the information that they would need to be uploading. Occasionally on some of the single family homes or a duplex, because they've built, but we've really found it beneficial, especially with the new builders. Bring them in, we sit them down for 30 minutes, we introduce them to the city, we say, here's some of the benefits of business license. Well, you have to do the business licensing, but here's some of the benefits of being licensed. You have a tax credit, potentially. There's some, and the Public Works side, they address everything they need to. It's been a very good process.
Thank you. And again, I'm concerned when I look at a list this big in less than a month, 22nd through the 4th, that's a little over a week, that many permits have been approved. Unless you're a magician, I surmise it's hard to
Yes.
track where each one of those are. And that's just 1 week out of 52.
So the good news, just on this one, but the good news for multiple reasons is a lot of those were what are now going to be treated differently with the new code. because maybe it was a therapist who's going into a place where a therapist was already been. And that's what the majority of those were, not the majority, but that's what a lot of those were. But then there were quite a few that were the very big, and they can range, you know, from time to beginning to end with the amount of time that I'm working on those. They can be as short as, you know, an hour and a half of actual time that I'm, you know, working either with them or on the computer, all the way up to many, many, many hours of back and forth. So, but having some of those easier ones eliminated, because we'll be able to take care of it on the front end. I spoke about that a little bit at our Title 16 meeting, in which it's more of a, hey, are you this? No. Are you that? No. Then they won't even need to come and see us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and just the last comment, looking at other cities I've been looking at, and looking at Anchorage and New Orleans, and looking at the sewer and water problem we have, and most people look at individual homes or individual business for the water source. But if you have time, like I do, to look at a full study of California fire and the water, most people don't realize what's the water system if there is a house fire, not 50 house fires. And so the more you let businesses and more homes get built into a cluster, yeah, the water system will support that house if it catches on fire. But if you have 50 on fire at the same time, which is another expense to the city to try to play catch up and provide the resources, the water system and everything to do that and stuff. So growth is not just growth to get taxes. Growth has a lot of other layers to it that sometimes when we're trying to grow, we don't consider until something bad happened. And with we could see it this year with no snow, we could see a fire season.
So if everybody has a moment, take a little bit of time and go and listen, if you haven't already listened to our city council meeting last night, because Public Works Director Eric Shaw gave a really good overview of some of the things going on with the water. And I think that it lends exactly to what you're saying, where we are right now.
Yeah, I only mention this for the
Yes.
for the rest of the board.
Exactly.
For the rest of the committee here is when we start approving things, there's a much bigger picture out there. Thank you, Chair.
Any other discussion? We are now at audience comments. Time for members of the public to share their views with the commission. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. I hear and see nobody, so we now move on to comments. City Planner Wellman, do you have any comments?
Well, I appreciate the time tonight. I feel like we're at a really neat place at the Planning Commission. I'm really looking forward to the future. I'm very, very, very excited to have Julia here. I'm just thankful that you're present. You're just wonderful. So that's all from me.
Planning Clerk Barnett, do you have any comments?
It's nice to meet all of you, and I'm just happy to be here. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown, do you have any comments?
No, sir, I think I've talked enough.
Commissioner Langell, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Commissioner DeYoung, do you have any comments?
Welcome. That's it.
Commissioner Stafford, do you have any comments?
So I want to say welcome and looking forward to the help that you can give our planner. Thank you.
Chair Seals, yes, I have some comments. I'm really looking forward to this Title 16 review and possibly passing. It's been a long time in coming. The city has needed it for a while. The future is here. We're moving into it. It's good that our planning clerk is here to help our planner, especially with all these layers we're gonna add.
But they're good layers.
Oh, yeah, no. There'll be frosting in between. With no further business at hand, I'm adjourning this meeting unless an objection is raised.
Not tonight.
Hearing no objections, the meeting is adjourned at